Welcome to the After Action Report, a podcast from the Eden Project. I'm Michael Stewart, one of your hosts today. The other host is my friend and executive director of the Eden Project, Bren Briggs. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing today?
I'm well. I'm glad that you're well today.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a rough week.
Our episode today is being recorded at Rome at Trilith in Georgia. And if you have never listened to this podcast ever before, or maybe you've been following it since day one, and you would like to reach out to us, you can go to our website, eden-project.com. That's Eden, EDEN-project.com, or call or text 678-632-5383, 678-632-5383.
Yeah.
People have been doing that, right?
And people have been, and I really appreciate the comments we've been getting, so definitely keep them coming. If you get to our website and it looks kind of wonky, and wonky is a word, by the way.
That's a good word. It's a good
to make
word.
sure,
Very good.
I was using real words. If it looks wonky, we're going through kind of an upgrade and some changes. It's going to look really, really cool here in a few weeks. But don't give up on it. Just know that you can still leave comments there.
Yeah, and that's eden-project.com. Now, the Eden Project is a veterans and active military's resource for mental health, helping those who need healthy mental health tools and resources to help deal with day-to-day life. And that's just kind of like a summary sentence.
Yeah.
It could be like a whole chapter if we explained everything that the Eden Project does.
I know. So it could take days or weeks to go into all the details. But basically, if we sum it up into like one sentence, we provide tools to deal with reality.
Reality, yeah. So today we have a new topic. And let me go ahead and tell you that if you haven't listened to some of our other topics in the past, feel free to check those out. But tell us what we're going to be speaking on today, Bren.
So today's a little different. I know in the beginning it was kind of get used to what the Eden Project is, or get used to what the After Action podcast is about. Mm-hmm. So the first couple episodes was more historic and kind of fun. This one is going to be maybe a little heavier topic, or one that in my experience has caused some controversy.
Really?
Crazy, isn't it? But yeah, so what I would encourage is if someone is tuning in right now for the first time, mm-hmm. listen to the whole show, because there's a chance that they're going to get pissed off at one point, but push through, listen mm-hmm. to it, and understand that there's a lot of science behind what we're about to talk about.
And that's why we say go back and check out some of the episodes that we've had in the past, and kind of see where we're coming from and all the things that we have talked about and done in the past. So let's go over some of the key points.
Yeah, so the main thing we're going to talk about today is just how freaking powerful our mind is. Our mind can do some crazy awesome stuff, or if we let it, it'll do nothing. But the fact that our mind is powerful, and that our mind or your thoughts can actually control and change your mood mm-hmm. and your actions.
Right, I get that.
Yeah. So that's kind of where the controversy, or where people tend to turn off and say, yeah, that's not true.
Well, I think if you, depending on your background or where you come from, I think a lot of people have heard is you can change your mood by positive thinking. And we've shared this in other past episodes. Negative thinking obviously is going to put you in a bad mood.
Right.
The things that you watch on TV or YouTube or whatever, or people that you're around, if you're around people who are just negative all the time, you're going to become that kind of person. So the mind will absorb whatever you want it to.
Gosh,
that's fair to say?
That's the whole show. There's nothing else to talk about.
Okay, well, have a good day, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. No.
That's exactly right. So what you feed your mind is what you become. So if you believe it, then, the old adage, if you believe it, then you become it. But historically, what we're taught is the opposite, that the environment or the things around us make us who we are. Mm-hmm. So, the whole nature, nurture kind of thing. But there's an awful lot of science and studies and peer-reviewed articles and so forth that talk about just the opposite, that our mind and what we think controls our actions.
Gotcha.
So again, that's where the controversy is. So if you're having a hard time with that, understand that just give us 25 more minutes, and we'll kind of walk through and get through some of this stuff for you.
I think that's fair enough.
So, one of the examples that I've used in the past is, if you think of our thoughts or our mind like the wind, the wind can be super powerful, or it can be like that subtle breeze carrying a soft, maybe a scent of whatever's blooming right now. Well, in our area, it's all this pollen. But,
pollen.
Yeah.
Ragweed.
But it can be just a soft breeze, or the wind, like a Category 5 hurricane that wipes out whole cities and like in Florida, whole parts of the state. So that's the wind. Our mind can be just like that. We can have these little thoughts or these great big thoughts. It was a person that, or someone's mind that created music.
Right.
That's written books and articles and, well, the atomic bomb.
Yes. Thanks.
So that's how our minds work, and it can be, like I said, it can be something little and subtle, or it can be super powerful.
Yeah, and didn't we talk about, like, even in before we actually came in to record, you said something about people can have surgery without, like, anesthesia?
Isn't that crazy?
And you don't have, like, a doctor coming in today or anything to work on me that I don't know about, right?
Well, it just so happens he's at the door right now waiting on us. Yeah, so that's where the mind can be super powerful. They train the people undergoing surgery that they can have, and I don't know if they're cutting and removing the heart and different things, but right. I know that they've had surgeries where they do it without anesthesia, and the people are just as good. Actually, they're better because they're not having the withdrawal or the symptoms from the anesthesia.
Right. If you think about that, there's a lot of people said, I don't even want to go through that. I don't want to experience that or even try it. If it's based on faith, and we know, like, if you're in the Christian world, hey, if you have faith of a mustard seed, you can tell this mountain to go jump in the ocean. So I don't know if I'd be the first guy that wants to go through some kind of surgery and say, well, let's just wing it without anesthesia.
I'm one of them with you. As you know, I've had a few.
Oh yeah, you've had quite a few.
I've never given the option of not having anesthesia, and if I was, I wouldn't have taken it. So I get it. I've seen the studies. I've read reports. I'm not one of them right now that's willing to go there. However, lots of people have done it, and it's a growing trend in some areas.
Well, now think about this. A thumb drive can hold like 20,000 songs.
Wow.
250,000 pictures, and our brain can do, I think the word is 10 quadrillion operations per second. Most brains, maybe not my brain.
Right.
I'm over here trying to change cameras and turn the mics on and talk to you at the same time and read. But that's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of stuff. How many zeros are in, what'd you say, 10 quadrillion?
Quadrillion, 16?
Jeez. That's like...
it's almost close to our national debt right now.
It's so funny. I was just trying to figure out how to say that.
That's too funny.
Yes, it is. But, the majority of what happens goes on in our subconscious. And I think that's why people like you and I right now talking about doing one or two things at a time, most of it happens in our subconscious. We're not even aware that that's what's going on. So our mind can do, it said 10 quadrillion things, and you and I just proved that we can do maybe 5 or 6 at a time. There's one thing that our minds can't do, aside from looking at the notes. Any idea what that one thing is?
I'm not looking at the notes, but well, no, I mean,
you're thinking of lots of other stuff.
I'm thinking of a lot of different things. Okay, good, but I mean, I know there's subconscious things that our body does without thinking about. Obviously, I don't think remember to breathe in.
Okay, heartbeat.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about that. So here's the one thing that our minds cannot do, which when I read this, I thought, oh, come on, that's not true. Our minds can't tell the difference between what's real and what's perceived. So what things that really happened and things that maybe we thought or dreamt of, our mind can't tell the difference.
That's a tough one for me because, like, I know we had breakfast this morning.
Yeah.
I know that was real.
That was real.
Well, my mind perceived that it was real. So I know the difference between that and it wasn't a dream.
And that was dream. So have you ever had a bad dream or woke up in the morning in a cold sweat, or your heart's thumping and pounding? Well, your heart's doing that because of the dream. it was a dream. It wasn't reality that caused your heart to do that.
Okay. So I see what you're saying. So yeah, at the time that something like that is going on, the heart is going to react to what you're thinking about or seeing in your dream, or you're going to get chills, the sweats.
Yep.
Your body will react to all of that. But when I wake up, I realize at that point it was a dream.
But it took you a minute to kind of go through, like, okay, wait a minute, I'm laying in my bed.
Right.
I'm not running down the street or being shot at, or whatever the dream was. So, but that's what elevated your heart in the first place, was
Right.
the dream or the thought, because your brain imagined that was really happening.
And the kind of off topic here, but there's times when your dream and reality kind of cross over, and yet there's things like there's things that are happening either in real life that's you're still dreaming, or you're dreaming and then you hear that alarm clock and it's in your dream. Or like for me,
Exactly.
having a cat, that incredible sound of I can hear that in the middle of the night. I can be dead asleep and that thing will shoot me up out of the bed. And I'm grabbing a paper towel and I'm looking for the cat in the middle of the night before
So my mind was, I thought you were talking about your cat was having like some
he's
rave dance.
Anybody owns a cat, they know there's like the cat vomit. They hear that sound and he's getting ready to upchuck. And so I'm still sound asleep, but that could snap me out of it. But I'm also heart's beating really fast. I had to wake up too fast. So I totally see where you're going with all of that. Cat lovers everywhere. Thank you. Yeah.
I thought you were doing a rave dance.
No, that's that's different from
Right.
So
completely different.
Exactly. So dreams and reality, and the mind not being able to compare or know the difference at the time.
So here's a true story from my past.
Okay.
I was a junior in high school playing football. A senior on our football team was in a really, really bad car accident. So during the football season, I probably early on in the football season, he had the car accident. The doctors noticed that about 4 o'clock every day, his heart would race, his blood pressure would go up, his pulse would change. So he'd be, steady all day, and all of a sudden around that time, everything changed. It took a couple months, but he did this for months and months and months, and they finally realized or came to the conclusion that that's the same time that we had football practice. So his body, whether he was dreaming it, he was thinking about it, or whatever was going on in his head, he was thinking about football, and his body was changing at the same time that we had football practice, and his whole, everything was changing during that time. So it's just kind of a crazy example of the mind controlling the body.
Well, and another simple one I think a lot of people can relate to is I actually know that, I can set my alarm, but I've been getting up around the same time to where my body now, I no longer need an alarm clock. My body starts to wake up at the 5:15.
Yep.
Or my cat. Once I get into the cat, he knows when I'm getting up and he tries to wake. It's that constant habit of something that you and your body and your mind does that kind of burns into your system.
You've trained and conditioned your body to be that way. So what they said with this kid in his car accident was like the placebo effect.
Oh, okay.
Now, I didn't realize that we could still do experiments with people. Everything I've studied recently said that, we stopped experimenting on people. However, I read an article in the New England Journal of Medicine recently where they had two different groups of people, both with the same problem. They had a knee surgery. So one group actually got the knee surgery. The other group, the family agreed. They didn't tell the guy getting the surgery, but the family agreed.
Sorry.
I thought you were playing music. Oh, it was music. The family agreed that the other group would not get the surgery. So they still put him under. They still, did everything as if they were getting surgery. But they didn't get the surgery. That's kind of the big point here. One group got it, one group didn't. But at the end, all of them reported having positive results from the surgery.
Oh, wow.
So again, going back to what we're talking about, the mind is crazy powerful. If you think it, And it happens, in this case, they call it the placebo effect. The people who did not get the surgery still benefited from
Benefited, yeah. But now, isn't there something that's kind of like the opposite of that?
Yeah. So the opposite of that is that they call it the nocebo effect. And yes, it's a real word.
Real word. Nocebo.
So it's the opposite. If you've heard of someone maybe with that hypochondriac or Munchausen syndrome, they think they're sick, and they think it so much that they actually develop the symptoms.
Kind of like the hypochondriac kind of thing. He keeps saying he's always sick, and he does it enough to where he really becomes that. That's whatever they...
Exactly right. And their body manifests those symptoms of, whatever it is they're thinking. Because, and I'll keep, going back and saying this, the mind is powerful. The mind creates those things.
Well, what was the example by the hypnotist you were sharing with me earlier? What was that?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, again, it has to be true because I saw it on YouTube, right?
Yeah, if it's on the internet, it's got to be real.
I read it and saw it. So I read similar stories and I actually saw this video so that this guy hypnotized a group of people. And one in particular, he said, my finger, but he held up his finger as if it was a lit cigarette. He said, my finger is a cigarette. And he touched the guy's arm, and the spot on the guy's body, the guy that was hypnotized, the spot where he touched him developed a burn.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah. I wish I had written down or you could probably Google, hypnotize brain or something and find it. But
so what shapes our subconscious mind in your studies that you find, the things that you look at?
Everything. Everything from TV ads, radio, music, the people around us. On the last show, we talked about the power that parents have on their kids' minds. If you say that you're, what we talked about was the families with deployed service members. If you talk about the deployed service member in a positive way, when they come home, it's a happy, fun reunion. If that person talks bad and negative or shows depression and all this other stuff, then that's the impression that the kids have, and it's really not a nice homecoming. But all that stuff around us, things we're not even aware of, like we talked about with the 10 quadrillion or whatever it was number. Right. All this stuff around us impacts what's going on in our mind.
It's interesting. And I do want to point out, again, if you haven't heard some of our past episodes from the After Action Report, go back and look at those and listen to and kind of get caught up a little bit. And you'll see some of the things that we have shared with folks on here on the podcast that kind of lead up into this. So they can kind of get an idea.
Yeah.
And again, if you ever have any questions about anything that you're hearing on this, reach out to us, eden-project.com, or you can text us or call us. Let me pull up that number again. Ladies and gentlemen, that number again is 678-632-5383. You can tell that I don't have that memorized.
I don't have it memorized. It's been 8 years.
I know. You remember back in the day when we knew everybody's phone number, and now everything is like, I don't have my phone. Don't know my son's phone number, things like that.
Yep. So, and I'm glad you brought that up because I sometimes reference or make a comment about a past episode, assuming everyone's heard the past episode.
Well, yeah.
So I'm glad
we hope so.
I'm glad you threw that in there. Do you know the story about Thomas Edison? This kind of ties into, what we were just talking about. When the story goes is when Thomas Edison was a kid, the principal at his school said he was, the word we use is now is slow. I don't want to use, some of the other words.
You don't want to use our word. I think the official word, because, after you mentioned that to me, I kind of addled.
Addled, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that comes from adolescent, Adeline, who knows.
What he was telling Thomas Edison's mother was that your son's just not right and doesn't fit in here and so forth. So the mother, didn't want to believe that or agree to that. So instead, she poured into Thomas Edison. You're a great kid. You're a smart kid. You're all this other stuff. And now, the rest is history. He invented, I think, 1,200 inventions that are, affect our life right now. So again, it's what's poured into you and what you believe, becomes your reality.
Exactly.
That also makes me think about the quote from Gandhi. Gandhi was, 50, 60, 100 years ago now that he made this quote. Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits, and your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. But it all starts with your thoughts. What's going on in your head? Your thoughts create your actions or impact your actions.
Exactly. Well, since our thoughts create us, it seems, what's the thing to do here? Have positive thoughts, right?
Well, it really is. So, or just know that you have the power to control it. So obviously, yes, you want to have positive thoughts, but that very first step is accepting the fact that you have the power to control it. You have the power to manage your thoughts. And if you can manage your thoughts, then you can control your actions afterwards.
So I guess this is the one where we talked about, this is the one that causes the controversy, whether, people believe or disbelieve that the important concepts that we discuss and creating those thoughts and how you're going to handle them. So why don't you share that story about the two dogs, dogs barking?
Yeah. This is, the other stories are things you can look up and read and find that's true about Thomas Edison and the other things we've talked about. This one is kind of a think your way through this. So one story, or one person in a story, is afraid of dogs. Mm-hmm. They're thought that every time a dog barks, it's going to attack you. Okay. So in their mind, that's a bad thing, that dogs are bad and evil. Right. So their bodies are flooded with adrenaline and cortisol hormones, the whole fight or flight kind of thing. Yeah. They're either going to defend themselves or run away because that's the belief that they hold about dogs.
And their body is reacting to that thought and that belief at the time.
100%. That's right. So the other side, though, is the person loves dogs and thinks that a dog barking means, like in your case, they love cats. Well, these people love dogs. That the dog wants to play with them.
Puppy!
Woohoo! So their body produces dopamine, or the happy hormones.
Yep.
Purely thought. It has nothing to do with what the dog did. It's their response to the stimulus. It's not the stimulus itself. It's how the body. So it's the exact same thing, just completely different reactions to that stimulus.
Where's the controversy in this? I mean, what issue would people have with this, or what is it?
I hear you, and that's where it gets kind of we start walking into that gray area. If people have been exposed to trauma, mm-hmm. Any kind of trauma, it can be a car accident, it can be physical trauma, combat trauma, mm-hmm. Abuse as a kid. I mean, you name whatever it is that happened. We've been taught to believe that it's the event or the trauma that causes us to think and act the way we act. But that's not true. It's our response to the trauma. And that's, it's not a play on words, but it's a huge difference in how we look at situations. It's the response to the trauma, not the trauma itself, that affects how we think and believe and act.
I totally agree with that 100%, because you can put any situation, and it's how if somebody's driving down the road and everything's perfect and hunky dory, and all of a sudden someone cuts them off, they weren't mad or questioning that before it happened. It was the event itself that caused them to react to that event.
Right. So the group and this is where I want to be real careful and sensitive. The people that tend to have the hardest time are those who have been victimized. This is going to be a topic, I think we've got 2 episodes or 3 episodes from now. You can be victimized without being a victim. Mm-hmm. Huge difference. Once people understand that concept, it's life-changing. But until they get there, their life is impacted because they will always hold on to and believe they're a victim.
And that is by choice.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So you're right, and that's what we're going to get into. We won't talk about in detail right now, but it's by choice. Mm-hmm. And just like Gandhi said earlier, choices come from our thoughts. It's what we think and what we put in our head is what our actions, what produces our actions.
Right.
That, in a nutshell, is where the controversy comes from. And I've had people walk out on me, leave a group meeting because they're stuck I won't say stuck. I'm not trying to insult them. I'm definitely not trying to be mean or whatever to them.
Right.
But they've held this belief that no, it's the situation that caused me to be the way that I am. And all we're trying to do is help them understand, but you can change. You can think about that differently. You can think about you differently. Right. You can think about whatever. And it's how you think through it is what, causes your appropriate or inappropriate response afterwards.
Yeah, and I'm on board with that thought.
Yeah.
I mean, not being any kind of, scientist or study or psychological thinking or anything, it makes sense to me, but I can see where some people go, no, and maybe that's the victimization part of it, is that they've been thinking that so long. We again, it's something that we've talked about in the past, that if you do something long enough, you become that's your habit now.
Yes.
I wake up, I pet my cat, I go in, I get the coffee, read my Bible, that kind of thing. If I do that long enough, that's going to be a habit.
Right.
Breaking that habit means changing something in my life.
That's right.
That's where the hard part comes in, is changing something in my life,
right.
whether to better myself or just for whatever reason, I want to do something different.
Yeah.
Drive down a different road today or whatever the case may be.
And it's hard. I mean, intellectually, we know that we may believe this, but we've lived it for so long. Change is hard, because it happens in the subconscious mind, and the things that you want to change, need to change, think ought to change, are not so easy. So I'm not in any way saying it's a flip of a switch and you go from victim one day to victor the next day.
Oh, no.
But I know it's a process.
Just like habits, it takes time.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
But the very first step is accepting that you have the power. So, again, like we talked about several couple shows ago, we have about 60,000 thoughts in a day. 80% of those are negative. Once we accept that we can control the negative thoughts and we start washing the negative thoughts out, we become more self-aware. And there's several steps we can take to as we become self-aware, that we can start washing through or washing away and changing some of this, the unhealthy thinking.
Right.
And move into controlling our actions and being more positive and beneficial.
What are some of the other steps in there as far as self-awareness is concerned that you would?
So one of the things that we typically start with is just being mindful or even meditating. We talk about gratitude journaling. Mm-hmm. So that's a good first step, is starting your day or maybe ending your day with gratitude. Being mindful about your presence, being mindful about acknowledging, if someone, I hate this word, but it's used all the time, triggers you. You see me do the air quotes?
Yeah. Triggers.
If someone does something and be aware that, holy cow, my heart is racing, my palms are sweaty, I'm getting angry. That's being mindful of where you are and acknowledging it, and then, doing something, whether it's deep breathing or just walk away. Doing something to affect us. So that's one of the first things is mindfulness,
right.
Being aware of what's going on.
And all of that comes, that's a response. I mean, it's just how you respond to that.
That's right.
And I should mention, online you can find the gratitude journal. Is that right?
We have two journals. One that's a 6-month journal that's just straight up journaling. Mm-hmm. 6-month journal on Amazon. We created another one that's a full year, and about every 4 weeks we put in one of these practices. So you'll journal for 4 weeks, and then we'll give you a tip on how to deep breathe, or how to relax, how to go for a walk or listen to music. So we put mindfulness practices in there.
And you can find that at eden-project.com.
Yep. Or Amazon too. Amazon has them too, but you can get them on our website. If you want to skip us and go straight to Amazon, more power to you. It's there too.
Especially if you're in Prime, 24-hour delivery.
Thanks for bringing that up. So we talked about journaling. Another one, it can go both ways, but we talk about seeking feedback. Mm-hmm. I would trust you. If I'm, well, actually, I'll always give you permission. If you say, Bren, you're looking kind of funky today, I'm going to pause and say, wait a minute, what's he talking about?
Well, now that you mentioned it. No, I'm just kidding.
My wife did it last night.
Really?
I have, I suffer from migraines. Like, we talked
Right.
about that earlier. Something hit me yesterday, no idea what it was, but she's learned what to look at, what to look for, and she caught it before I even recognized it. You can do that with situational stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a meeting and someone says something in a group that just pisses you off, and another person's in the room with you, and they give you positive feedback or any kind of feedback, listen to them. Now that kind of goes to the other way too. There are always those people that may not be the best advice givers.
Well, yeah.
So you have to
kind of have some kind of trust or faith in them or
Right,
something. But if
right.
somebody looks over at you and goes, hey, calm down a little bit or whatever. Yeah,
Exactly.
Totally get that.
Self-reflection is another good one. And this is one that I think is really, really important for any situation. If you're at a Disneyland or something and you're having a great time, be in the moment and recognize, man, I am loving this and it's awesome. If you're in I think you mentioned earlier, you're in traffic and someone cuts you off.
Mm-hmm.
Be aware of those feelings as well. Just being aware of what's going on will help you, kind of get past some of that stuff.
But no, I see where you're coming from on those. It's being aware of your situation and understand that things can happen. You mentioned I know people can go to a place like Disney World or
Yep.
Universal Studios. One of my favorite places actually over Disney, and know that there's going to be a million people there.
Right, bumping into you and
Right.
whatever.
That's one of the things that you must experience to get to the fun part of
Right.
standing in line for an hour to ride a 45-second ride. And, but that you're going to deal with that. So is this worth that?
Yeah.
Put that in your mind and can
Exactly.
you overcome that?
And acknowledge, so to tie it back to, kind of what we were originally talking about, if you tie it back to, let's say you find yourself really angry, really pissed off and all this other stuff. If you stop for a second and say, wait a minute, I'm pissed, but I can control that. I can choose to continue to be mad and get madder, or I can choose to take a deep breath, acknowledge all the other cool stuff and let it go away.
Right.
And that's the next thing that people, I know that I tend to not do so great at, but I think I'm getting better.
I'm going to agree with you already.
Pausing before you respond.
Exactly.
Imagine, I know you can imagine this, that you say something, you're instantly triggered, and then you say something. But we call it flash to bang. Imagine that you're the stimulus, the thing that sets you off, but then you take a minute to think about it, take a deep breath or whatever. Generally, your response isn't nearly as angry, hostile, venomous as it would have been when you in the very beginning.
Oh, exactly. And that's why people talk about if you pray, hey, take some time, pray about it first. If you meditate, just meditate on something. Sleep, don't go to sleep mad. They always say don't go to,
right.
But think about something before we respond. If you're going to respond to a quick email, right away, it's not going to be the same that if you waited till like maybe the end of the day or tomorrow.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly.
That's probably one that I if I was going to encourage any of these, that might be the one that I would say, hey, try this first. Mm-hmm. Do this more often or do it, just plain do it, because it really, really affects, so many other different things.
Exactly. So we know that this can be a tough concept to accept. Having to control your thoughts and your actions means that you are now responsible for those actions and what you're going to do, whether it's how you react to something, how you respond to something, or something that may be going on in your life. And sometimes responsibility is not an easy thing for people to take. You know what I mean? It's like they don't want that responsibility. And a lot of times, and I'm not saying this is for everybody, but it's easier to accept, well, that's just the way I am, or that's the way I've always been.
That may be one of the reasons why people don't want to accept this, because you just said it. They don't want to accept the responsibility. However, we know it's true. We know that you have power over your thoughts have power over your actions, period.
Exactly. It's probably a lot for people to absorb. If you ever want to go back and listen to all of this again,
Yep.
please feel free to do that. Or again, if you have questions about this, if you even if you disagree, I mean,
I love
we're,
that,
we're
yeah.
open to just civil conversations and discussions on all of this. Maybe you have a thought you want to share with us. You can
Love to
do
hear
so.
it.
You can reach out to us. Again, the Eden Project's website is eden-project.com. You can call and text 678-632-5383. That's 678-632-5383. Anything else you want to add?
No, man. I think, gosh, that time went by fast.
It goes by really quick, I know.
Yeah.
So we do want to thank everybody who tunes in on a weekly basis, or every episode basis, I should say, and those who share on your social media.
Love it.
Thank you so much for that. Our listenership continues to grow with each episode. We're called the After Action Report. It's a podcast from the Eden Project, and we record here at the beautiful studios at Rome in Trilith, Georgia.
Beautiful area, too.
Thank you again so much, everyone, and we look forward to having you back on our next episode
You bet.
of the After Action Report.
Thanks, Michael.